Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chatting with the Experts. With me, the host, Paula Okone, where I speak with incredible women from Africa, from the Caribbean, and in the diaspora. These women are successful entrepreneurs. They're professionals who have and share with me the mission of educating, empowering, and inspiring women globally. Today's episode is called Empowering Women to Soar. And my guest, who will be joining me in a few minutes, says Elevate is your personal guide to clarity, confidence, and next level success. She says whether you're re entering the workforce, pivoting industries, or launching your own venture, she'll help you through Elevate move forward with a purpose. So I'll tell you a bit about my guest. Ooh. So the speaker I have the privilege to introduce is a visionary educator and empowerment strategist with over 20 years of experience transforming lives through mentorship, education, and leadership. She has dedicated her career to guiding women through career transitions, entrepreneurship, and personal growth, while also advancing digital equity and workforce development through innovative education programs. This speaker's expertise lies in mentorship, nonprofit leadership, and building transformative platforms that foster clarity, confidence, and purpose-driven success. She's also the founder of Elevate Mentoring Services and Quantum Studios Institute for Education, and is a lifelong advocate for inclusive learning, youth development, and women's empowerment. Please help me welcome to Chatting with the Experts. Drum roll, please. Phyllis Lacy.
Hello.
Hi, Phyllis.
Hi. That was quite an introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh, my word. Your bio is so impressive. I had to condense it and even that condensed version is so impressive. Thank you for saying yes to being a guest on Chatting with the Experts.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here with you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking about something that's dear to my heart, and I know it's dear to yours as well, and that is empowering women to soar.
Yes, 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 yes. I think that there's no better moment in time than where we are right now, where it's so important for women to find themselves if they have to pivot from a career that they were once in, or if they're trying to start a new business. I would like to be that person that will help them to clarify and strategize on what the next step is for them. Let me put it to you this way. In my lifetime, in a career, it's not just one thing that you're doing. It becomes like a journey. You start off doing one thing, and then before you know it, you're doing something else. It might be in the same career. And I think it's all about the vision you have for yourself. You can't stand still. No one's standing still. But if you have that vision for yourself, then you can start moving in a direction, in another direction, and create for yourself other opportunities. I have met some young women recently who, when I started mentoring them, I actually thought it was about one thing. It ended up being about something else. It could have been about them going into a divorce, and they were like, I really am thinking about this career move because I need more money. Okay, you need more money. That's interesting. Never occurred to me they were talking about divorce. And they were talking about a career change, a shift that was going to be monumental. And I helped them lay the groundwork. It's not about me. This whole thing is not about me. It's about the person that's sitting in front of me or on the computer with me. And it's about, giving them some direction, on what it is that they feel as though they need to do, and then helping them figure out how to get there. And
So
a
what
lot
I'm
of
hearing,
times,
go ahead, go ahead.
And a lot of times it's really emotional. It's very emotional. You're dealing with giving them emotional and mental support along the way and letting them know that this is something they can do. And one thing that's my famous little tagline is, "You're enough, you can do this." And figuring out, as we move towards that end, that they are enough. I use that all the time. I say, "You are enough." And they'll look at me and they'll be like buying into it, slowly buying into it. You get this aha moment and you're saying, "Okay, what tools do you have in your toolbox right now?" Okay, these are all the things that help them to see that they're valued. It's like their jewelry box. Okay, let me open it up. What are some of my practical tools and what are some of the resources I have, or what tools do I need to develop in order to get me there? And I can look at them and talk with them and say to them, "Well, you got it all. you know, let's just figure out a way to put it together to make it work for you so that you can move on." And it doesn't necessarily take a long period of time. It's just people figuring out that they can do it. You know, they can do it. They got the tools that they can do it. Let's figure out where it is you're going, whether or not it's a new job or it's a new career or if it's an opportunity to start a new business. And that is what I like.
Absolutely love it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
is, I'm looking at you, and you may not, of course, you may not be looking at yourself the way I'm looking at you, but you said it doesn't always have to be difficult
No,
because,
it's not
you
difficult.
are more than enough. You are enough.
You're enough. You're enough just where you are. Because by the time you get to even in your 20s, you've got a life experiences that you bring.
Yes.
And anytime that you go forward with something, whether it's like I said, a career or an opportunity to start a new business, you are bringing with you experiences that you've had for at least 20 years. It's just how
Love
you
that.
package them, how you put it together, how you utilize them in order to get you to the next level. And sometimes you just need someone that can empower you to utilize what you already have to make that first step. And then you possibly could need some training. Everybody can use a little training, you know.
Hmm.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be like a 6-month course. It could be like a 2-day, you know, something,
Hmm.
whatever it is. We don't know what it is until we talk about it. And then all of a sudden you realize, I don't need anything. Oh, I remember I did something with that once upon a time. I know how that goes. So you say, okay, you got those tools. Everyone needs to figure out that they're valued. Everybody has to figure out how to value themselves. And I would like to think of the role that I play is a role that enlightens people to look at themselves differently. We come here to each other, we come and sit down with one another. Everyone sees something different. When you look at me, you see something. When I look at you, I see something. And wouldn't it be nice if someone would actually tell you what they're seeing?
Yes. 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 Sometimes
And
we are.
that's what Elevate does. That's what I do is I try to empower people by giving them the tools that they need, by telling them what I see and what I think you need to do to get to the next level.
I love that. I love that. I love that. There's something you said earlier on about, when we're still talking about that you are enough, especially for young people who may not see that, the 20 years they have lived, 25 years they've lived, that they've actually been acquiring some experiences, some knowledge, something that they can use. And you mentioned the toolbox. You tell them to look in their toolbox because there's something there that they can pull out and use whatever the situation that they may be in. So with that, it made me think of something that we discussed earlier on about vision, vision as a catalyst for growth. I see it looking in the toolbox. You must have vision to look in. It's the form, you're looking there, you're using your vision. How can we talk
Well,
about that?
well, when you talk about like, okay, so some people, I was looking at, my son was telling me he had a new vision board.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So some people actually have to have it in front of them,
Mm.
to see where they're going. And then some people have it like right in here. They got it right up here. They actually see for themselves. So you have to envision, somehow we have to envision our next step. And I like to think that by going over your life, going over the things that you've experienced and what your expertise has been in getting over that mountain, a lot of times will let you know that you have the strength it is to do that next thing, whatever it is. I don't, we could say, you're a young person and you're coming out of undergraduate school and you say, I want to be a brain surgeon. Well, let me think about this. But even if it were someone that's coming out of school and says, I've just finished my dentistry, I'm a dentist now, and no one in my family is a dentist. I want to open up an office. I want to do this. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Okay, what are your options, for doing this? Because some young people don't know what the next step would be to do that. They've gotten a degree. They don't know what they. Someone told me I could join the military and they will help pay for my start, jumping off. Someone said, okay, let's sit down and think about this because we want you to be successful. We don't want you to fall into the wrong hands where you owe people money. What is the next best step for you to get you to the next level? That's real concrete. Okay. That's something that's a plan that many people have taken that road to opening up a business. They can do it through a couple of different ways. And then you're talking about someone that's been in the workforce for maybe 20 years and they're really ready to pivot. So it's a
Yes.
little different. It's a lot more difficult to get them to envision themselves doing something different. You have to lay in front of them those things that they value and help them strategize. I say, you got a career strategy, you got to deal with their emotional and mental support. You got to help them craft some tools in their toolbox. And then you have to talk about personal growth and empowerment. You got to
Yes.
talk about a lot of different things. And I believe in doing my research. I don't think that there's one set of tools for every person. I believe that every person is different. And if I'm looking at you and you're trying to make a pivot in some form or fashion, let's just say 20 years into your career, it's going to have to be something that you're going to have to stick with, hopefully, for at least a couple of years. Because we pivot all the time. We change all the time. I remember in my career, I started off as a teacher. I said there's got to be more to being an educator than this. And I talk about following in the footsteps of someone that's come
Mm.
before us. And I remember listening to other teachers talk about working for the state of Virginia. That's where I was teaching. And they talked about working for the State Department, and what were they doing? This is like a volunteer something that they were talking about. I did my research, found out what it was, wrote a letter to them, and they invited me to sit on the board. That opened up so many doors for me and opportunities. And I said to myself, everyone needs to be able to have their ear to the ground, listen to what other people are talking about, figure out a path for themselves to do something different. I was still a teacher, but it opened up a lot of other doors that may not have been open had I not been aware of what opportunities were out there, because no one's going to tell you. You got to do some research.
Yes. You've got to do some
You got to
research.
do some your research. And I
Well,
remember once I was on that board for a while, the person who was the head of the arts in Fairfax County where I was working, they nominated me for Teacher of the Year because I was doing a lot of work. I was doing a lot of work. I started planning the convention for the state of Virginia, the convention they had for the teachers. And it was just like, you are doing so much that we've got to recognize you for what you're doing for us. for Northern Virginia, Fairfax County. So sometimes having a dream that's bigger than yourself, where you are right now, is what you need. Is you need someone to sit with you and say, you're doing this, but have you ever thought of, what is it that you want to do? Have you ever thought of the stepping stones that's going to take to get you there? That you may have to do some volunteer work, that you may have to watch how other people are doing things, in order to figure out how you're going to do that yourself. Volunteer's not a bad thing. It also helps you measure yourself up against other people. Am I getting through to people? Are people liking what I'm saying and how I'm acting? No one thinks of volunteering as an opportunity to get experience leading. And because not everybody's going to let you lead just because you want to be a leader.
There's something I do want to ask you. And, your business is called, you're the founder of
Elevate,
Elevate.
elevate,
I
elevate.
love that. I love that. And I know when we met offline, probably about 2 weeks ago, we talked about community being part of, your elevation tools and mentorship being part of your elevation tool. Can you give us some tips on how to use mentorship and community as a tool to
Oh,
elevate?
wow. So, okay. So mentorship is important for so many reasons. There are people already out there doing the same thing that you want to do.
Mhm.
Okay. So even if you follow behind someone they allow you to walk with them in their field and see how they do things and show you how to do it, doesn't mean that you've got to do it exactly the way they do it.
Say that again, because some
Yes.
people think you have to do exactly what you've seen.
I think it's important to write it out, to do what they're doing and to follow through with the directions. Because when you're following through with how they tell you to do something, if they're telling you, that let's say you're a master chef and you've already gone through the school and everything, and you're following behind how they're doing something, they're doing Cajun food or whatever. In doing what they do as they've done it, something could go off in your mind and say, yeah, they did it this way, but I see an opportunity to do a little differently after you've done what they've done. And a good mentor, once you get started under their wing, they will look for you to do something a little different. They don't want you necessarily copying them. They want to see you expound upon it, take off and do something more with it. And that's what that's all about. So you kind of go along with them for a while, you kind of follow behind them, and then all of a sudden, boom, you explode. That's the part.
You
That's
explode
what a
and you
good mentor wants.
elevate.
That's right.
I can see
That's what the
that.
mentor wants to see of you.
Okay. Let's
And
talk about community.
and then that's community too. And then you'd start developing a community of people that you work alongside with.
Yeah.
There are different communities. Someone was sharing with me, okay, so you want to find yourself. Oh, some people believe in going to church. Some people believe in joining other organizations, whether or not it's your community organization or you're in a biking club or whatever, you have a community. Just because you're riding a bicycle with other bikers doesn't mean you're not going to learn something other than biking.
I like that. I
And
like that.
from talking with these people could be leaders in their own regard, in their own businesses. As soon as you share something about yourself, somebody's going to say, hey, let me share this about myself. Let me give you some more tools to help you to elevate yourself where you want to go, you know. So community means that you are coming together with other like-minded people for that moment, biking, for instance. And once they get to know you, they will share with you. So tell people all the time, I am just one vessel. there are so many other people out there. You need to join this, or you need to go to this. You need to see what this is about. That will help you because eventually someone's going to share something. That's how we grow. Okay, those are one of
Absolutely.
the tools. That is something that you're going to learn to value because more times than none, I take what I tell other people and I use it for myself. So when I go out, when I leave out, someone invites me to something, to an event or something, I'm going there not looking for someone to give me information, but I know it's coming. I know I'm going to learn something. And that something I'm going to impart on somebody else someday that's going to help to get them to their next level. We are community, and I value community, you know.
Yeah. The question I also have for you is like, elevate. There's a reason you chose elevate. A reason that you're talking about empowering women to soar. That's the title of the show today. Are there any acronyms that we get from elevate? Empower? I'm just this is just me going with that.
Uh,
ELEVATE.
I think it's enhancement. I think it's an enhancement.
Enhancement.
Empowering, enlightening.
I like that.
What else is it? Oh, I think it's an opportunity to align your strengths and passions. When you elevate, you're looking to going another direction. And maybe it's upward, maybe it's becoming better or richer. Richer, not necessarily of money, but richer
Money.
in the regard of adding more to yourself, you know. And it's funny, when I talk about enrichment, it has nothing to do with money, but I do believe money can follow, okay? But to elevate yourself is to take yourself to another level that you may not even have seen for yourself. Because I know that the people that I've worked with, there was this young woman that I worked with, and she talked about her first job was, she had a pretty powerful job. I don't want to say too much about it, but she had a pretty powerful job. And when she became pregnant, her and her husband were starting a family. She said, I had to get out of that because it was just too much work and it was too stressful. And she became a makeup artist. And then she said, okay, I've been this makeup artist, made good money for years. I'm ready to get back into the business world.
Mhm.
And I want to do this and this. She was telling me what she wanted to do. And I said, okay. I said, well, if I think she wanted to work for one of the major tech companies. And she even showed me a film that they were talking about this new career opportunity where you could make like $150,000 a year if you get this 6-month training course and this whatever. I said, okay. I said, well, I think that the experience that you had is definitely going to help you get to the next level. Do you think you can go back and get a job similar to that? And then once you take this class, because of that experience you have, they will put you in a position to be accepted by this tech company to do this new job because of this old job. And she said, yeah, that makes sense. So she was smart. She didn't really need me, but I helped her work through some things, envision for herself this new opportunity.
Mhm.
Within a month, she called me. She says, I just got a job making over $100,000 a year, doing
Wow.
something similar to what I used to do, but it also has a little technology in it. So when I finish taking this course, I'll be in a position to make. I was like, wow, she did it. I was like, oh my goodness. Well, before I knew it, she had gotten, we talked about resumes and things. She had found someone that could cater her resume to the government, the
Mhm.
government standards of creating a resume. The next thing I knew, she had 15 job interviews with the government, 15 or more.
Wow.
It might have been more. She had a lot of, she was like, this one didn't pan out, but this one didn't pan out, but this one did. I got a second interview. She was going through it all. And all of a sudden, she had the job. This was during that turbulent time where right now people were getting fired, but she got the job. She kept the job even.
Wow. That's a
Sometimes it
success
just needs
story.
someone to, huh?
That's a success story, I'm saying.
Yeah, sometimes we just need someone to talk us through some of the steps, talk about some of the things that you've done. Okay. Nothing that you have done in your life is not worthy of looking back at. Look back over your life and some of the things that you've done that were successful and use them to propel you forward. And she was like, oh, that was, she had her. I said, just look at it. Get yourself ready because that was a powerful job you had.
No journey is ever wasted. You and I spoke about that earlier on
Yeah,
prior to coming on.
yeah,
No
yeah.
journey, no matter how bumpy, no matter how smooth, every part of the journey is worthwhile. Even if not for yourself, but it's also for others, where you can share what you've done and empower them, encourage them, inspire them to do even more because
Right.
you've walked that journey.
Like I said, you're good enough right now. Let's just look at ourselves and
Yes.
find the value in what you've done and help propel you forward, you know.
That was such a good story, Phyllis. Can you believe it? We're almost 30 minutes into the show, but I want you to talk about that was such a good story that I really want you to talk about some victories. I know you say no part of the journey is ever wasted. Do you have a story in which you could talk about how we should celebrate victories, no matter how small they may be, and
Hmm.
even if they get big?
Do I have a story where somebody should celebrate? Is that what you're saying? Somebody
No,
should?
I'm saying, yeah, I know that, that story you gave just now about that young lady who had such a powerful job and then had to, because of maternity, having a baby, she had to leave for a while, but you were able to show her that was not a waste. Being at
Oh, it
home or
wasn't. Yeah.
not working or doing something other than her high-powered job could still be used as a pivot to get
Right.
into, So I'm just talking about victories. I know we talked about celebrating victories offline, big or
Right.
small.
Ooh, celebrating victories. I find that sometimes we have to look at our own personal growth. It doesn't necessarily have to be job related. It just has to
Mhm.
be about us. And we go through, as humans or as women, we go through a lot of situations. And some of the situations we go through that could be heart-wrenching, when we come out the other end, we realize we had to go through it in order to be ready for the next thing, whatever the next thing is going to be in our lives. Whether you are a spiritual person or not, some people say it's God that has prepared me for what I'm going through now. Or if you're not a spiritual person, it's just the way life is set up. It's like we're climbing that staircase and we have to have been there in order to get to where we're going. I know for myself, I can say that the naivete that I may have had when I was younger, the way that things were revealed to me, did not change or make me bitter. It made me better. It was like, oh, okay, so this is how life is. Okay. But I'm not going to become this person that no one likes or I don't like just because people act like this. I believe that for myself, for personal growth, I have to show people how to be better, and I remember teaching in the county and people look at you and see you not as you see yourself, you know. So if you have pretty good self-esteem, we've all gone through stuff. If you got pretty good self-esteem, what you're doing, you think you're doing a good job. And then there's people next to you that don't want you to believe you're doing a good job. I say to people, keep going because eventually you're going to see, you're going to turn around and see you were doing a good job just doing whatever it is. Even if you made a mistake, everybody makes mistakes. You were doing a good job. So there is growth in being steadfast, in being deliberate, in planning for your future, in looking at the small things that you do and saying, I'm going to keep doing it this way because it's good, just good. Not necessarily, I might make mistakes. It may not be perfect, but I'm doing it for the right reasons. It's not all about me. And when you get through it, when you get through all the stuff that comes along with it, you see that God was setting you up. Somebody was setting you up for the next thing. I don't know if that's what you mean, but that's how I see it.
Celebrating every moment.
Every
Every
moment,
moment.
believing in yourself, and then when you get to the end and you say, "Oh my God, I did it. I did it."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're going to continue this with our interactive audience who have joined us. But for those later who are watching this on YouTube or listening to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever, how can people get in touch with you, Phyllis?
Okay, they can get in touch with me by sending me an email at Phyllis at elevateempowerment.com. Yeah, this is a new journey for me. I have done so much in mentoring over the years, and to take it and turn it into a business has been pure joy. But it
I
is,
see it.
I
I
love
see it
it.
in your face. And your
Yeah,
website, I'll drop it in the chat, is elevateempowerment.com.
yes.
Correct? Because you
Yes,
said that
elevate.
yeah.
It-
What about LinkedIn? Are you on LinkedIn?
yes, my LinkedIn handle, I'll let you put it in later on. I'll
Okay,
give it
I'll
to
put it
you.
in the chat.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
Wow. I love all the women and the few men that join me every week because I learn a lot. I learned so much from you today, Phyllis. And so again, for those who are following me, I invite you to join me every week at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to meet not just with my interviewee, but also to meet with the audience that joins us. But I do want you to know that if you'd like to be a guest on Chatting with the Experts, just as Phyllis has been, reach out to me on my website, which is chattingwiththeexperts.com. I am on LinkedIn as Paula Okone. I'm also on Instagram. My handle there is at chat_experts_podcast. And I'm on Facebook as Paula Okone. We also have a YouTube channel. Please subscribe and check us out. We have, oh my gosh, so much value, so much content there, all from women from Africa, the Caribbean, and in the diaspora, sharing their wisdom and their knowledge with women globally. And so I'm blessed every single week to learn something new from these women. And I have to acknowledge the men that do join us. So now we're going to open up the floor to all who joined us live so that they can talk directly with you, Phyllis, and ask you any questions that I might have left out while talking with you, and also to share whatever they may have learned amongst themselves. Thank you again, Phyllis, for saying yes to being a guest and Chatting with the Experts.
Thank you for having me.